I think, though, that with corn, typically you reach a seasonal low at the end of September and into October. That's a seasonal, the seasonalities. Pull up some seasonality charts. Typically at the end of September and into October. That will probably be the same thing. What's interesting this year, though, is we do have almost a record, I believe it might be a record net short spec position. So you almost have this perfect storm of which you have no production premium risk. You have a net spec short that is massive. You're approaching a seasonal low. So these are, as commercially, as you're thinking, don't try to pick a bottom in the corn market. Okay? Do I think it's going to rally $1? Not unless we have a massive freeze. Okay? There's too much a supply overhang. Okay? But that said, that's kind of, can we come out of the harvest and rally 40 cents? Certainly. But if I'm looking for a low to be made in corn, it will happen in the next, or it should happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks, as long as we don't have a freeze. Okay? So generally speaking, corn supply is pretty abundant. Let's talk about wheat. I hate wheat. Okay? There's nothing good to be said about it. There's enough of it. World demand is contracting. It's much more regionalized trade. Okay, prices react. People haven't figured out quite yet on the investment side that agriculture is cyclical, and that producers do respond, and they can respond very quickly to price signals. So when wheat was $15 a bushel, gee, what do you think happened? We massively expanded world wheat production, and here we sit with a lot of wheat, a lot of origins offering wheat. The majority of it less than food quality. Okay, if you're going to find something nice to say about wheat, I think you do kind of have a protein issue in a way. But what's really fascinating is that, gee, the cash markets work, and you've got your premium and discounts functioning, and the cash market is sorting through this premium versus soft wheats, or versus feed wheat. So with wheat, everybody says, well, what do you think wheat prices are going to do? My gut read is I follow corn, and I say, the feed rations, that sort of thing on the board, so on futures, is that wheat should trade about $1.40 to $1.50 versus the front end, the spot month. Okay, the spot month of corn, for September, it's right in that 140 to 150. So using that theory, it would say to me that these futures are probably about 20 cents too high right now. Okay, they're at 470. These corn's at 305. So if you have exposure to wheat, follow corn, follow the corn market, and that should be your price risk management strategy. I do think like corn, certainly the December. It would not surprise me to see the December gravitate towards where September goes off. And September wheat futures are at, say, 540 right now, 545. Okay, there's no story in wheat. Argentina, everybody knows that plantains are down. The government's going to screw up Argentina again. That's more interesting to me when you talk about the soy complex. Okay, Brazil's going to buy Canadian wheat. Okay, great, because Argentina's out, big deal. The Canadian Wheat Board, they've guaranteed 13.7% protein. With actually a very sharp premium, I believe, in the cash market for every 1% to 14. Okay, great, that's done. Australia's dry, but you can take 4 to 5 million tons out of Australia, and your wheat situation is still very, very comfortable. Okay, and I'm a thematic trader. Like, I like my themes, and then from those themes, you develop strategies about that. I don't think wheat has a story. Okay. It's very, so that's how I feel about wheat. Going back to corn real quick, if corn is going to have a story, I think you've got to have a freeze or something. Something's got to, you've got to have a freeze. That's first and foremost. And then China. Okay, China is implementing and has implemented and is buying a fair amount of DDG in bulk off the PNW. Okay, you don't need import licenses and import quotas. That's interesting to me. Okay, that's interesting to me. If China, USDA is at 162.5. First and foremost, no one knows what China's stocks are. I don't. I always say, if every farmer, let's say there's 800 million of them, in China put a bushel of corn under their bed or put it in the storage, I mean, that's half the U.S. carryout for 08, 09, the year that just finished. We just don't know. But the fact that they're buying DDG, the fact that in the northern parts that corn production will be probably lower than 162.5, that would be interesting. And that's really the only bullish thing I can find to talk about corn is maybe not China imports some corn. And I'm talking like a big program. Yeah, that's probably what I'm watching for. But again, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But they'll feed wheat or they'll, But again, if I'm looking for something that's going to cause prices to run, it's got to be that. I don't think it's going to be ethanol. It's the U.S. livestock sector is absolutely been decimated. The profitability of the dairy, the beef, and the swine sector is awful. Poultry's improved a little bit. But by and large, feed demand is, I think USDA is too high on their feed demand for U.S. corn. Okay? There's a lot of feed wheat and corn coming out of the Black Sea. In general, you're talking about if you want to go buy feed wheat or corn, you can pretty much find it in a lot of different places. And that's very different from 12 months ago. Okay, very different from 12 months ago. So let's talk about the two, and I'm a natural bull, so it's very difficult for me to actually say, I'm bearish corn, I'm bearish wheat. In fact, when I was coming out with those projections a few months ago, everybody was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. Soybeans and meal. Meal is actually, to me, the most fascinating raw commodity out there of the ones I trade. I think that Dees meal naturally gravitates towards $300. Okay, that $300 on the board. I think if you look at beans, as a trader, yes, I'm bullish beans, but I'm very, since middle of August, you find yourself changing trade strategies because it's trading very purely technical. This correction, if you will, or whatever, this has been a beautiful downward technical move. That's all it is. That's all it's been, because nothing's changed really. Yeah, I am very concerned about the U.S. soy crop. I think the yields coming out are too big. I'm much more on the conservative side. I actually don't, 41.7 bushels per acre, which is USDA. I actually kind of like that number. Okay, soybeans don't like wet feet, and it's been very cool. There's a lot of disease. Okay, I think we do have some significant issues. I'm much more worried about the U.S. soy crop than I am the corn crop. Cool temperatures will likely impact oil yields. Okay, that's going to be something to watch, especially if India decides to execute, which we know India's government usually overreacts. In times of pseudo-crises, but they have a tendency to overreact. I would not be surprised if they do something on the veg oil side, especially after the sugar fiasco. Okay, who follows sugar prices? Incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. From 15 cents to 23, 24, 25. I mean, it's just been explosive, and that's been India behind that. So do me a favor when you get back to your offices and pull up charts, go look at the sugar market and what's happened in the sugar market, because that's been an Indian play. And I cannot rule out that same type, either euphoria or fear or driver, it's an Indian play. Okay, and again, it gets back to thematics. And you're going to have funds and you're going to have investment banks playing a thematic, dietary concern about India production, blah, blah, blah. But if you go look at what's happened in sugar, and I think there's some lessons learned before we get into what could be an interesting situation in veg oils.